Yeah. It's the mafia. Yeah.
He's a monkey with cymbals in his hands instead of just catching the football.
And
doing this.
They're giving us like a 24-hour go feed. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a Bill City. Yeah, a Buffalo Bill City. Yeah, we got Josh Allen, got Steph.
I know they mentioned something about an ultrasound to check the nerve endings and everything.
Hopefully
else
he's
like
not pregnant. That would
Hopefully
be
not
a
pregnant.
disaster. I hear that's a 9-month timeline to recover from at the minimum, is what I've heard.
Yeah, Ike McKenzie on a jet sweep. Maybe it's a fake. Honestly, it's a TD either way when you got Josh Allen making plays. Win a ball before we get a new stadium.
Someone's making a new Twitter at some point. Maybe we should do that.
Honestly, I'll just start a shared Google Doc, and that'll be our new Twitter. That'll be our new Twitter.
Just people just adding shit in.
Anonymous hedgehog is saying "fuck your mom." Like.
This is our team forever. It is forever. We got Josh Allen, got Steph.
Folks, welcome into a brand new episode of the Crowdus podcast presented by Trainwreck Sports. Wake here. My friend Jake Michael will be joining me in just a little bit. But until then, got a great guest here to preview what we were talking about before we started here is already being billed as the best Monday Night Football game, maybe the best game of this NFL season. Bridget Jancarz. She is from the #1 Bengals podcast on the Believe Network. Our guest who we had for the Vikings game, Sal Spice, also from the Believe Network. So we're getting a little familiar with you guys over there. Bridget, thanks for being here. How's this weather has been shaking the entire country. How did Cincinnati get hit over there?
So pretty cold, a little snowy. I've actually been in Michigan for the last week. And so I'm from rural Southwest Michigan, where we're used to getting a ton of lake effect snow. And we got that for the holidays. So it was a nice white Christmas, and I've just been hanging in there. Sounds like temperatures are going to heat up in Cincinnati a little bit for Monday.
Yep, certainly seems like that. And if anybody's traveling over there and you need to stay warm, the temperatures will be a little higher than what we've seen, but Outlet Liquor, stock up there, the place to buy a case whenever I go to a Bills game, Bridget. They are what keeps me warm when I'm tailgating because they got the best prices around on spirits, wine, seltzers, you name it. The place to buy a case at George Urban Boulevard in Depew. What's your outlet? My favorite outlet, Bridget, on this program is a new game that I briefed you on a little bit that we've been doing here. It's called Fact or Fiction. And if anybody is unfamiliar with that, the way that it goes is I'm going to present Bridget with 4 facts about Bills Bengals. 3 of them are real and 1 of them is fake. And it is her job to figure out what the fake statistic is. Jake Micah, my co-host, is notoriously awful at this. So we will see if you can go 1-0. And put him to shame a little bit.
I'm sure I'll follow right in his footsteps.
Well, stat number 1, let's see what you think of this. The Bills and Bengals lead all current AFC playoff teams in strength of victory.
Wait, so I don't get to see all 4 and then pick which one is fiction?
So I'm gonna present all 4.
Okay,
and then I have a little handy dandy graphic that will pop up at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I like this one. This one doesn't sound absurd.
Stat number 2, fact or fiction, Devin Singletary has more rushing yards than Joe Mixon this year.
That's probably 100% true.
Okay. Number 3, with Joe Mixon's current stat line, he would be the 2nd leading receiver on the Buffalo Bills in terms of receptions.
I mean, he gets a lot of checkdowns.
And number 4, both the Bills and the Bengals began the year 0-2 against their own division.
Oh, I wish I knew your schedule and when you played your first 2 division games. Okay.
So we're going to put them all up on the screen here. The 4 statistics are that the Bills and Bengals lead all current AFC playoff teams in strength of victory. Devin Singletary has more rushing yards than Joe Mixon this season. Number 3 is that Joe Mixon's current stat line would put him 2nd on the Bills in receptions. And number 4, both the Bills and the Bengals began the year 0-2 against their own division. Bridget, do you have any idea? Maybe rule one out. What is one that you think is definitely true?
So I would say that likely Devin Singletary has more rushing yards than Joe Mixon this season.
And that is correct. It is close. He has 3 more rushing yards. So that's one of those kind of gotcha ones. And I'm really happy you didn't fall for that because I would have felt genuinely terrible. I'd even feel bad about Jake Micah falling for that. And that definitely says something. So pick another one. What's another one you think is true here?
So I'm trying to figure out for the first one.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out where the Chiefs would fall in because we've had some really strong margins of victory. And so the two I'm really trying to pick between are the third and fourth. So I'll say I think the first is true.
And I hate to tell you it, but that is false. But the thing is, you were not correct on the team that's ahead of them. The Bills and Chiefs are like
Who is
like
it?
1,000. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Would you believe that? The Jacksonville Jaguars have an above 500 strength of victory this year. I think it's the best in the NFL.
I mean, Trevor Lawrence has come out guns a-blazing in these last few games and is making a name for himself. So it's not... I mean, I will say, I was going to say it's not shocking. I'm shocked. I'm not going to lie.
You're not blown out of your seat, but you definitely got pushed back a little.
Yeah.
That's for damn sure.
I mean, Mixon gets a lot of receptions. So that one wasn't, I mean, and we can talk more about the Bengals offense, but the checkdowns, which I think were plaguing us a little at the beginning, have also become just kind of one of Burrow's trusted progression. So I'm okay with Mixon getting some passes. He's got real good hands.
Yeah, no, I would be okay with that if I was a Bills fan or a Bengals fan as well. As a Bills fan, we have kind of been waiting for, because, Devin Singletary, he's a good back. He is what he is. He's not the best receiving back whatsoever. And that's why when we drafted James Cook, like I'm 3 for 3 in declaring a guy that I want the Bills to draft over the last 3 years and them getting that guy. I wanted them to get Ed Oliver, wanted them to get Greg Rousseau, and then boom, they got James Cook. That was my guy too. And
that's
so
awesome.
right? So, that's 3 of the last 4 years. No, that is the last 3 years. Math is so hard.
So do you want to hear a fun draft story?
Would love to, yeah.
So the Bengals sent me to the draft this year. So I got to give Goodell the jersey for our first round pick. And then I read our 5th round pick. I think it was for Tyson Anderson. But I was really gunning for George Karlaftis. So I was actually I was backstage and that's, I'm at my parents' house and that's a phone ringing if y'all can hear it. I'm sure someone will answer it. But I was in the Nike jersey room where they press the jerseys. It's probably about 2 picks before you hear it on stage. And maybe Karlaftis was one of the last 2 or 3 guys that was still, I think, in Vegas, who could be, they only had 24 guys there. And so they were asking me, so the Chiefs pick is in, and they were like, who do you think the Bengals are going to pick? Because obviously we picked right after them. And I was like, we're going to take Karlaftis. I know it. It's going to be great. He's going to come out on the stage. And then literally you hear backstage, and the Chiefs selected George Karlaftis, pressed the jersey. So I'm like, I think I'm 0 for however many picks, but Dax Hill was a good first pick. And then Cam Taylor-Britt has been an excellent draft choice for us.
Yeah, well, so we'll start with the defense then, because that's probably, that's where most of the injuries are occurring, I think. You have Trey Hendrickson playing with basically half an arm. And
not the club.
And not the club. I'd be scared. I'd be terrified seeing Trey Hendrickson run at me with a club for an arm.
He's got that tomahawk down or that chop, and I wouldn't want that with some metal. Nope.
No, I saw someone tweet, would you take $1 million to be sacked by Khalil Mack? And I'm thinking I might, but I would definitely scream like a little girl in the process, and I'm not ashamed to admit that whatsoever. But this Bengals defense, obviously, Trey Hendrickson, there's some other injuries going around back there, but we'll start with, I think, the cornerbacks, as you say, Cam Taylor-Britt, Eli Apple, who Joe Marino from Locked On Bills referred to as a cockroach because he kind of is really awful and just latches on wherever he can and somehow stays in the league, which I think that's a great comparison. I'm more about the food comparisons, but the insect ones work too. So let's talk about the corners here, because I think if there's one way for the Bills offense to take advantage of this defense, it's attacking them head on the boundaries.
Yeah, and I think that's probably our biggest weakness. When Awuzie went out, however, it feels like a lifetime ago, mid-season, that was a real blow. Awuzie was playing like at a top tier level. Eli Apple, though, I mean, Eli has he has a mouth on him, which I think if he's on your team, and Twitter fingers, we'll call it a mouth and Twitter fingers. So if he's on your team, it's really easy to get behind him. But I think for the other 31 teams, he is a little bit of a pain in the ass. I mean, he didn't allow any yards against the Patriots, if that's right. So he, like some of our key players, he can be inconsistent. I mean, Joe Burrow through week 8 could be a little inconsistent. And I think after that Browns game on Halloween, things have turned around. But I think it's interesting because I think one of the Bills' weaknesses is also one of the Bengals' weaknesses, and it's going to be out there in the secondary with the. So I think we're going to be fairly well matched there. What's going to just be really interesting is how our defense can stop Josh Allen. I mean, yeah, Bills fans have to know we watched that man in awe. I mean, we call him a moose. He's a tank. Like, he's what, 220, 230, 240, something like that? Like,
yeah, something like that. 6'5", 240, somewhere in that range.
And just can move agilely, nimbly. So,
but also in a Mose Schrute type of way. It's something to behold, truly.
It's really impressive. And then, I mean, the distance he's got, the strength of arm is really exceptional. So they said Sam Hubbard was practicing today, and I like the Bash brother combination of Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson. Hard with them both, not 100%, and I'm not sure that they've said whether or not Sam Hubbard's going to play or not. I like our chances better with Hubbard and Hendrickson, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I want to see, especially for a game that's being built up like this, I hate the injury bug on either side. Like, of course, I'm going to be like, okay, great. It's great that, Trey Hendrickson won't be at full strength, taking advantage of Spencer Brown or, God forbid, Bobby Hart. Like, that would just be terrible. But there's something to, kind of how like the Eagles and the Cowboys this year. Every time they played each other, there's been a backup quarterback on either side. One with Cooper Rush, one with Gardner Minshew. And this is the first time since Joe Burrow and Josh Allen come into the league that they're actually going to play head-to-head football. Like, that's still something that's kind of hard for me to believe. And I would love for them to be at full strength. But let's say, Trey Hendrickson, he's still getting rotated in, if I understand, not playing 100% of the snaps. Who's behind him? And is that someone who can give this patchwork offensive line some fits?
Is behind Hendrickson? I've got to pull up the depth chart.
Yeah.
Because I should know this. So I'm gonna pull
if it's anything
up.
like the Bills defense, it's a big rotation. Like with Von Miller out, Shaq Lawson is the guy who's kind of stepped in as that number 2. But we also have AJ Epinesa. We also have a bunch of other guys on the outside.
We've got Joseph Osai, and Joseph Osai is pretty good.
Okay.
I mean, he's no Trey Hendrickson, but
not many people are.
Yeah, I think Osai is. I mean, Osai's a big dude, makes some good plays. I like Osai. And then I think Jeff Gunter is 3rd on the depth chart, but I'm fairly certain he's still injured.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, we're definitely going deep on the line there. I mean, we've got Cam Sample is decent if Sam Hubbard doesn't play. I mean, at our at some of our tackle positions, like we've got DJ Reader, Josh Tupou. They
Yeah,
are,
DJ Reader's a monster.
oh my
I am
goodness.
very envious of. We have thankfully have Ed Oliver now. It seemed like after Mario Williams left, we were chasing a good D tackle for so goddamn long, and just you never know what you're missing until you finally get one back, and you're like, this is what it's like. This is
It does a number on the run game. I mean, I really think that's how we've been able to stop Derrick Henry the 2 times we played the Titans in 2022. So I think it's going to be a pretty interesting matchup. I mean, Josh Allen, like probably anything, he scares us. I think so Lou Anarumo is our DC, and
Yes.
in Cincinnati, I don't think Lou Anarumo has to buy a drink or a meal anywhere. I mean, we have just exalted him because he's phenomenal. He does the 3 wins against the Chiefs. That's right, Bills Mafia. That's 3 Bengals wins over the Chiefs in 2022.
Damn impressive.
I mean, it's great. But Lou Anarumo really orchestrates these things at halftime. And I think that's probably an interesting thing about this game is that regardless of where we are on score at the half, things can really, really change. I mean, against the Bucks, the Bengals had to come back, and we almost gave it away to the Patriots last Saturday.
Let's talk about that because I didn't watch that game. I didn't have it over here. All I did was, whatever awful game. I think it was like the Giants Vikings maybe that was on instead, or I can't remember what was on at that time, but it tuned in at the end, and I, like an idiot, had the Bengals money line or Bengals minus 3.5 in every single parlay that I had. And I was just so confident. I'm like, you know what? Hit the button. I know it's going to happen. And I got very, very nervous about that. I listened to your guys' podcast from this past week, and it sounded like it was just a lot of weird bad luck. Oh my God, this is really this is how we're gonna lose. Like kind of similar to how that awful game that the Bills had in Miami when we had 500 yards and they had 200. Josh Allen fumbles on the goal line and they get a safety and we lose. This is how it goes down. Or that was Vikings, but same thing. Yeah.
But really. 13 of their points, I think, were scored on. I mean, the defense scored 6 of their points,
which is going to happen when you face Bill Belichick.
Exactly. I mean, the Patriots, I think, have the highest scoring defense and special teams in the league. So,
not shocking.
We haven't gotten a pick 6 this year, and I kind of think a Monday night stage would be a great time for one.
No,
that is what I would put in my parlay. I think that would be one of my
a Cincinnati defensive touchdown. Mm-hmm. If it came from Eli Apple after all the bad things I have said about him, that would just be so mean.
You're gonna learn about karma. No, I don't know.
I'll never learn.
We haven't had one yet, and we're about to go into our 16th game. But yeah, that was unlucky, and I mean whatever. It's not horribly uncharacteristic of Burrow, but he's definitely cleaned that up since the bye. And then if you didn't watch that one catch they got where it looked like a guy was going to catch it, I think Bates got in there, tipped it away. I kind of thought Bates was going to get his hands on it, and then a Patriot just comes out of nowhere and walks it in. And I think Jesse Bates is kind of like, like what just happened?
You're like, I blinked. What the hell?
Yeah. How does this occur? So.
Yeah. No, I feel like that's kind of similar to what happened against the Vikings when Cam Lewis could have simply just knocked the ball down, and then a half a second later, Justin Jefferson comes down with the most ridiculous 4th and 18 conversion I've ever seen in my entire life. But we don't have to dwell on that any longer than we should. When the Bengals defense has gotten beat in the past this year, like all I don't remember. And it's weird because they almost feel like an NFC team to me because like I said, we haven't played them since Tre'Davious White's, I believe, his rookie year when he had 2 picks, if I'm not mistaken, or it might not have been his rookie year, but I know the last time we played them, Frank Gore was the leading rusher for the Bills. So that tells you everything you got to know. When you get beat, how does it usually happen on the defensive side of the ball?
So this is a great question because it can be in the secondary, especially after the injury to Awuzie, which I feel like just kind of made things really inconsistent. And I feel like there can just be some like miscommunication, and then there's really good separation. Folks are able to separate from an Eli, from Bates or Bell. Like, I think when you see the best Bengals games, everything is clicking there. And when you see the worst, there's a lot of miscues and miscommunication. I don't feel like the line is horrible. I feel like a lot of teams haven't been able to run on us. So it's that ability to make great plays downfield, and you're kind of at a hit or miss, especially with how deep we are right now in our depth chart down there.
Yeah, no, and like everything, the more and more I look at this, the more and more I'm not shocked that even on the road, it's practically a pick 'em. Because these are basically like, these teams are very, very similar. Like really, really good safeties. Obviously, we don't have Micah Hyde right now, but still Jordan Poyer back there. He's an all-pro. He might get paid like as a 30-some-odd-year-old safety, which would just be an incredible achievement by him, and he would earn it. But like you guys losing Awuzie, we started the year without Trey White, and we're giving up a lot of numbers to number one receivers. Thankfully, he's back. So that hasn't been the case as much lately. He's not at complete full strength yet, to be completely honest, but he'll definitely get there. He gave up some bad yardage to Garrett Wilson, got beat a little bit last week. So, he's definitely a work in progress. But then, on the defensive line, depth is being tested, but still being semi-productive to the shock of many, I would say. I mean, getting Shaq Lawson back was just him and Jordan Phillips coming back after 2 years away from the team, leaving the same offseason. I don't know if that'll ever be appreciated enough, even though it's almost all that people talk about. I mean, Shaq, he has a chip on his shoulder for pretty much every single game, especially that Miami game. No one was happier to beat Miami. Maybe Tyler Bass, because he got to, get that game-winning kick for himself, but no one was happier about it than Shaq Lawson, I swear. But then on the offensive side of the ball, two teams that can 90% of the time score at will, and if they're not scoring at will, they're beating themselves, right?
I think that's exactly it. And I just went and looked back at the schedule, because when you were saying like when the defense gets beat, what does it look like? And I'm like, the defense doesn't get cooked that often. I feel like where we get into trouble is on offense. Yeah. And like the Steelers game, week 1, Bengals Steelers at home. I mean, coming out of a Super Bowl, I can tell you that like in the stadium, that energy was electric. And we know that Steelers fans are fans that travel, but they're also everywhere, right? Yeah. Like, as the industry left, Pittsburgh, so went their fan base, and they were just so good for so long. But they show up. The only Super Bowl I've ever been to, and this is ironic as a Bengals fan, was Super Bowl 40. It might have been 2006, and it was Steelers Seahawks.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I would say that 96% of the fans in Detroit were Steelers fans. And I had never encountered Steelers fans in a game day environment. And so the terrible I just vowed I would never be a Steelers fan. And then 9 years later, I moved to Cincinnati, and that really became a thing. But the Joe Burrow, when he gets a little off, it really impacts the momentum of the game. And it was it's just a little unnerving when he throws a pick. He's thrown a few pick six this season. It feels like when you get, so what we saw on the Bengals wasn't our first possession, might have been the third possession in New England. Bengals move the ball down the field pretty well. The ball gets picked off, and then momentum just starts swinging the other way. So we see the next Bengals drive. It's a 3-and-out, no real progress made, nothing really doing on the field.
And it's just a tangible, like I'm breathing in and feeling the air in my lungs is just all Patriots momentum now.
It's so fascinating, and I just don't feel like I experienced that extreme momentum shift on other teams. But it's like when our offense is able to start getting picked literally or figuratively, that's when we are a more beatable team. And so this is going to be really interesting with Collins going down. I mean, how the Bills pressure Joe Burrow, I think, is going to probably mitigate or navigate where the game goes. But I'm both like excited because like Josh Allen, Joe Burrow is a fun playmaker. So these are fun things to watch.
He's gonna make shit happen no matter what. Like it is gonna be Greg Rousseau on who's the right tackle filling in for Lyle Collins.
Well, they're trying to figure out who's gonna be at left and right.
Oh, okay.
So right now they're trying to figure out. No one's committed. It's been fun. Bengals all, is Andrew Whitworth gonna come back and play his final season? And I'm like, sounds beautifully poetic. And do you want a guy who's just been picking blazers and hoodies out all season? I don't know. Dude's probably not exercising or training like a lineman. So we all assumed it'd be Hakeem Adeniji, who was okay last year. I mean, Bengals had one of maybe the worst offensive line. Burrow was sacked how many times? How many times in the Super Bowl? We win the Super Bowl, I think, if the O-line was just a tiny bit stronger. I think you put Aaron Donald on the other side of the ball in a different jersey.
That's a recipe for disaster. Oh my God.
And I think we would have had it, but the O-line was just so floppy and so breakable. And so we all thought Hakeem Adeniji would be next man up. Now the team is saying it could be Isaiah Prince. So that's the one part of the game that's making me pretty nervous for Monday. Just to see like who's going to step up. I will say Jonah Williams. I think Jonah Williams has been playing left tackle. Is that right?
I think that's
right.
And
so they could move him over to right.
5 minutes of Wikipedia-ing and looking at different depth charts, I think.
And I'm not that, like, let's be honest, I'm not an analyst. I just like to, I'm a fan, but I don't know everything.
You fit in fine here.
Which is perfect. I feel like I found a nice home. But Williams and Collins have been the 2 weak links on the O-line. I mean, we thought Collins was probably going to come in a lot stronger than he did. He's been dealing with a back issue, which I know he had in Dallas too. So our O-line is going to be, I think, the most up in the air part of our game, and it'll be interesting to see if and how they can gel and on a really big stage.
So, backtrack a few years now when there was that meme, I'm sure you may have seen it going around on Twitter, of the quarterback throwing to the receiver, and it's little stick figure drawings, and it's like with Joe Burrow, with Penei Sewell, or with Jamar Chase. Like when they announced that Jamar Chase was that pick, were you groaning that they weren't addressing the offensive line, or were you just like, this guy's gonna be sweet?
I liked it, and I liked it because I watched a lot of LSU's championship season, and I don't know, I just felt like drafting a guy at pick 5, like, probably fine, but for me, that so much about everything we do as humans is about relationships, and I think the Burrow-Chase relationship and chemistry, I don't want to call it unbeatable because it has been beaten, but it's a combo I'd rather have. Fifth Third Bank sponsor some of the Bengals, and we do a lot of when they're better together, and these two are better together. And I think Burrow and Chase are just better together.
We're seeing that in the NFL across the league. I mean, Hurts and AJ Brown hooking up. And I know there's another one that I can't recall, but there are more and more college wide receiver quarterback combos translating to the NFL and succeeding. And I think that's kind of a trend that we're going to see a little bit more. And I wouldn't be shocked if we start seeing I'm not the biggest college football guy, admittedly, but let's say the Bills, wanted to draft a Wyoming receiver that played with Josh Allen or something. I wouldn't be shocked if something like that were to ever arise, or obviously, it's too old for that now. But the team before them just sniping that receiver is like, you know what? We know they're not going to get past the Bills there. And I feel like they're like in the NHL, there's a lot of gamesmanship. I think in the NFL, GMs are a little bit more cutthroat, and I think they might start to see through that a little bit and play games with each other on draft night. I love that. I would love to see something like that. But I did want to tell you one story because you say that you said you'd never be a Steelers fan. Fun fact: I was a Steelers fan. My dad was raised in Pittsburgh, so I was raised a Steelers fan and a Bills fan. So don't everyone jump on me. But I went to the Steelers-Bengals playoff game back in 2015, otherwise known as the Vontaze Burfict Antonio Brown game. And so I was up in the nosebleeds with some friends, and at one point after that big hit, Ben had his helmet off on the sidelines, and Bengals fans were throwing beer bottles at Ben Roethlisberger.
Oh, I was there.
You were there.
I was there. I was also up in the I thought, so here's what I thought you might say. I was up in the nosebleeds, and all of a sudden I got cold cocked by a fan. So where we were sitting, I think it was a Bengals fan who got punched, but a Steelers fan was walking down to go to the bathroom and just punched this guy.
No, I remember seeing. Yeah, no, that was like a section away from me. I remember this happening.
We were
oh my goodness,
breathing the same perfect Jeremy Hill fumble air.
Oh, the Jeremy Hill fumble. And the Bills Sabres, Jesus. The Steelers had some running back that I cannot remember his name. It was like a third string running back running all over the Bengals. But what I remember most from this game is I'm a very mild-tempered fan until things get heated, and then I lose my shit. It has self-awareness. I am working on it. I'm not working on it at all. I know the problem, though. And so when I really wasn't swearing a lot, and I was making friends with the Bengals fans around me for the most part. They were like, you're the nicest Steelers fan I've ever met. And I'm like, I'm not from Pittsburgh. That's why. And so at the end, though, in the fourth quarter, when they start throwing beer bottles at a player with his helmet off, I naturally start to lose my cool. I start yelling, saying, the Bengals should be penalized because endangering, blah, blah, blah. Kind of not as bad as Mike McDaniel with the snowballs. I feel like that was a little bit worse.
Yeah, that was, it was also kind of funny, to be
I imagine it was
fan
hilarious.
of neither team, and you're just like, are they going to keep doing it even though they put up the jumbotron? Are they going to keep doing it even if you guys are going to lose 15 yards every time?
And so I start yelling and I'm swearing, and then this guy and his son behind me, the son's like maybe 10 years old, and he starts getting really mad at me, and the father's, talking shit to me the entire time, and the son goes, shut your damn mouth, and I'm like, okay, the son's getting involved. Now I got to talk, and I said, so you learned some language from your father of the year over here, didn't you? And then he started crying, and then he and his dad got kicked out of the venue because of me, and I felt bad for ruining that child's day. But I completely blame his father, personally.
Well, and the Bengals would have ruined his day had they stayed a little longer. So, the throwing so people were throwing water bottles at Ben Roethlisberger when he was being carted off the field. I think it was that game. Mm-hmm. And that's just, that's the kind of stuff that feels so icky. So when Tua went down on the Thursday night game in Cincinnati, I thought Bengals fans, for the most part, were incredibly respectful. We were all chanting Tua. Of course you think your own fan base is great. I think Bengals fans generally are pretty respectful. Like any fan base, you're going to get, bad apples. They're just out there, and you could probably unpack a lot of reasons why that is. But... I think I'm excited for the Monday night game because I think the Bengals and Bills fan bases, for the most part, have a lot of respect for each other.
Yeah,
I know we appreciated the wings that came our way in 2017. And I know that Bills fans were super generous to Dalton's foundation at that time, which was lovely. That's the kind of stuff you want to see. So I think it's going to be a fun game. I think with so much at stake, I do think energy is going to be really high and wild. And so I am a little like, what's gonna, I mean, because there's just so much with anyone sort of being in contention for the 1 seed, assuming that, other things go the way our respective fan bases want it. I mean, it's a huge game.
It's easily the biggest game, the biggest regular season game, I will say, that either of these fan bases have had in quite some time. And I think that's a perfect time to go into predictions for the game. And I think, the mutual respect and you brought up the wings. And when I listened to the show that you guys had earlier this week, I thought it was really funny how the one guy said that the Bengals would lose, but they would lose because they would lose the friends they made along the way, basically. Because that's what the journey is completely all about. I thought that was hilarious.
Daddy-O has some hilarious predictions. So if anyone ever wants to just hear those, go to the end of our podcast, listen to the last 90 seconds, and you'll get yourself a little treat.
Well, give these guys a little treat here. Anybody watching, anybody listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts right now. I know I heard your prediction, so I'm interested to see if you're keeping it the same, if you've had a day or two. I don't know what day that aired, if you had a day or two to digest.
It was Tuesday, so it was only
okay.
2 days ago.
So how do you, after a few days, do you see this going any differently?
I still think so for everybody listening, my prediction was Bengals 37, Bills 34. I predict a walk-off field goal. I maintain it's going to be really close. Unless something happens to our offense and the Bills are able to kind of blow us out, I don't see us being able to blow the Bills out. And that's not a knock to the team. I just think with the way you all are playing, and what Josh Allen can do with either his legs or his arms. I mean, that's just incredibly impressive, and he dominates most teams. But Allen's also good. I know I'm supposed to be getting a prediction, but I like to do my predictions with a lot of color and context.
I love color in this black and white unicorn with all the colors you want.
Josh Allen is always good for an interception a game. One of my friends who is a Steelers fan, but like one of the best Steelers fans I know, he said, you can usually count on Allen for a pick. I think we might be able to turn that pick into points. So there's a part of me that would maybe go Bengals 34, Bills 31. But you know what? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm going to stay 37-34. Mm-hmm. I can't predict the Bengals to lose. I just can't. I know my co-hosts were like, don't pick this with your heart. And I usually don't, but I have to. I have to. And it looks like a lot of the analysts, 8 out of the 10 NFL Network analysts.
That's just what we wanted. That's
what I usually want. Like, let us come in, low expectations, and then let us raise the bar. I don't like that. I saw that and I was like, no, Colleen Wolfe, like, get more people on your side. I don't like being a favorite like that because I don't know. For me, I don't know did you watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
I watched the first 4 seasons. I watched that within like 2 weeks.
In a latter season, they do a 2-episode story. It's one probably right after the Eagles won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles that year. Yeah. And they do a whole episode about the guy's superstitions. Like the color of the food you have to eat, the color of the liquid you drink, the color you wear, who's in the bathroom when. And I am very, very superstitious. And so I like our odds more when people predict us to lose. So I saw that graphic and I was like, no, like this. Put us back as the underdog. I don't want to be a favorite. So I don't know. I'm going to stick with 37-34. Something tells me this is going to be a high-scoring game with just 2 really, really incredible QBs. I mean, definitely 2 in the top 5, maybe 2 in the top 3. So I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah, I think this is... I remember when the Bills played the Chiefs back in week 4 or week 5, whenever it was. I can't remember. We always play them one of those weeks. That was a game everyone was thinking, you know what, this is going to be Rams Chiefs from 2018 level. Like this is, and I was like, you know what, I feel like it could be a little lower scoring actually. And I'm kind of getting the same vibes from this, not to be contrarian or play
I love
devil's
it.
advocate or anything like that. It's just, I just got a vibe. I feel like these offensive lines, yeah, they got some great guys behind them, but I feel like they're also poor enough to hinder both of these offenses quite a bit. I don't think a single team scores over 30, but I do think if I'm going to predict it, I think it's going to be a 28-27 Bills win. Nail biter.
I think the 1 point difference is what I'm hearing from a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it terrifies me. I'm shivering in my little boots, but I'll be doing that until Monday anyways. So no point in trying to change it. Bridget, thank you for being with me tonight. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, if there's a playoff game between these two teams in the future, we could do this again.
Would love to. I will say during the divisional playoff game, Bills Chiefs, I was watching with my phone in hand, ready to buy tickets if the game was in Kansas City for the AFC Championship. But I was like, we're not traveling to Buffalo. It's too cold, too snowy. So I rooted against you guys last year because it was just an 8-hour straight shot to the AFC Championship and one of the greatest sporting events of my life. But if it's in Buffalo, I will likely be cheering from Cincinnati, but would love to join you again. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolute blast. Anytime. Let's do it again soon, okay?
All right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Who day?
Oh, no. Oh, she left with a who day, and I couldn't even. God damn. Jake, Micah, how do you feel about our great new friend Bridget Jancarz leaving with a who day and not leaving me to respond?
I think she was wonderful, a wonderful guest. I hope that we do get a playoff matchup and I get to join and talk to her. But you guys did have that nice moment reminiscing there about the game that somehow you were sitting next to each other during,
yeah, pretty much.
Just
we were a section away from each other. I did not think that that's what was going to come from that. I just wanted to tell her I made a child cry. I just wanted to brag about that. I didn't expect.
I think the universe works in funny ways, and that's why I don't have internet right now. So you could have that moment with Bridget right there, and that's why I'm here. This is my also. I just want to say shout out to Bruce exclusive, Bruce Nolan, because this is me doing my best Bruce impression, and not even really doing an impression because Bruce is way better in this than I will ever be. But that's what I'm doing tonight. But I did not like the who day, but it's smart. I would have done the same thing. Would have left with the go Bills and left right away.
It was smart. Beautifully executed to perfection, drawn up like a beautiful, beautiful play. Nothing but respect for it. Honestly, I'm disappointed in myself more than anything.
Yeah. Well, so you said that you think this is going to be a lower scoring matchup.
Lower scoring, meaning that it's that no team. Like
I heard your score. What was Bridget's score prediction? Because I was trying to get hooked up here while she was giving the predictions.
So,
did she say a higher scoring affair?
Because hers was higher than mine. I know that for sure. I know that in her show from earlier this week, she said 37-34. I think she made it a little further this time around, a little lower score. Yeah.
Because she mentioned about the chaos nature and everything else in this game. And there was one little part where it was so similar to how Bills fans feel about Josh Allen that it just hit me so hard. And it was when she first mentioned talking about Burrow and being like, oh, like he kind of throws a lot of picks though. And we're kind of worried about it's kind of topsy-turvy and everything. And then I was like inspired. So I went and checked the stats again because I wasn't sure about Burrow's picks, but it was a point I wanted to make coming into this. Mahomes has thrown 11 picks this year. Burrow has thrown 12 and Allen has thrown 13. And these three guys right now are, as we're talking about this game coming into I don't even know how to feel about this game yet, really. I don't know if it's going to hit me until going in. I'm kind of happy it's Monday night for the first time ever because they got to just sit with it. And it's New Year's weekend. There's going to be crazy college football playoff on Saturday, all these games Sunday. It's going to be a lot going on up until the Bills game. And so I feel like the magnitude hasn't hit me. But getting back to that, talking about the quarterbacks and everything, Trent Dilfer has talked a lot about in the past about risk profile and just when you're that good, one of the mental things you have to get over is being willing to take risks that your first instinct is going to be not to take because to be a better quarterback, you have to push the envelope like that. And so that's why I will always say I will live with every Allen interception because he's pushing the envelope because he can do that and make up for it with his greatness. And
Yeah.
if you want another example, just look at the two other guys that are leading the teams that we're battling for this 1 seed with. Mahomes turns the ball over a ton. Burrow turns the ball over a ton, especially at the beginning of the year when they were losing games. It was, and she was talking about really the offense is the thing that's been struggling this year, not the defense. Doesn't that sound like the Bills? The Bills defense is, again, one of the best in the league for all. We've picked it apart and everything. They're across the board, high metrics, and it's really been the offensive struggles and ups and downs that we've worried about. So it feels like
struggles still being a top 5 offense in the league. Isn't that fun? Isn't that a funny struggle?
Struggles still being 11-4 or 12-3, and you know, potentially home for the whole playoffs and everything else. So like I said, I just don't the magnitude of this game, and Bridget kind of hit a lot of points that I was going to hit too. The magnitude of this game, how the quarterbacks tend to try to push the envelopes, especially in games like this, where we've seen them to be able to do that. And honestly, I think the excitement for these players to be in a fresh matchup because these two iterations of this team have never met. And that brings a lot of unpredictability. Like, I can't really come with any confidence to say what I think is going to happen in this game. Like, I have an assumption on how these teams are going to try to attack each other. I think the Bills they're probably good. It's going to be the Josh Allen running game again. I've been waiting for it for a couple weeks, but if they were going to save it for any time, I mean, it's this one.
It's this one.
And we've seen how dynamic Singletary and Cook have looked the last couple weeks. So the running game, I think, is going to be a huge part in maybe controlling the ball. So maybe that it tends to your lower scoring, the 28-27, if the Bills decide to control the ball like that and are effective in it. But I also think that could lead to some chunk run plays or chunk play action plays, maybe some big Gabe Davis catches. I really think this might be the Gabe Davis game. I might be leaning in on that just because I'm embracing the chaotic nature of it. But I think the run game will be that thing. And then for the Bengals, if they can keep Burrow upright and he can make quick decisions, like that's for Burrow. It's almost like the same thing I said with Tua, but he's so much better than Tua, and it's going to be much harder to do this. But if you start hitting him, that's when he throws picks, and that's when he makes mistakes. If he doesn't get touched, it's like Brady too. That's why he's so much like Brady, because if you could touch Brady with 4 people and have your secondary have great coverage on the back end, which the Bills should have this week. I mean, this is the healthiest. This is going to be a huge Kyer Elam, Dane Jackson test. Huge Trey White test, honestly. I mean, this is Trey White's biggest matchup since he's been back. But I think that they'll be able to scheme something up to make Burrow wait that extra second. And can Oliver get home? Can Rousseau get home? If they can't, Burrow's going to be able to pick them apart. But I think the chaotic nature, like both quarterbacks throw 2 picks. Maybe we get that pick 6 from Allen or from Burrow. I tend to think it's more going to be likely from Burrow. Maybe another Taron Jackson primetime pick 6.
Oh, Taron Johnson pick 6 would be fantastic in this one. It feels like it,
Or Matt Milano, who's dropped like 4 of them this year already. Like, he feels like he's due for one. But I feel like it's going to be chaotic. And my score is 34-31, which is why I thought it was funny that hers is 37-34, because we're right in line. She's got a little bit higher scoring. But I'm going Bills 34, Bengals 31 in a classic, because that's what I think these two quarterbacks are gonna that's what they do in these moments. Like all the Mahomes Burrow matchups been incredible since the first AFC Championship matchup. All the Allen Mahomes matchups have been great, but they've been very close the whole game, very back and forth, and I don't know why to expect anything else.
Yeah, no, and you know, at one point, Bridget and I were talking about how similar these teams are. Like, we were without Trey White for most of the year, and our secondary really struggled. They lost Awuzie, and now their secondary is really, really, really struggling. Defensive line, battered with injuries across the board almost all season long, but depth guys continuing to show up and at least play above a replacement level player that they are. And on the other side of the ball, kind of as we said, offense firing on all cylinders 90% of the time, but shooting themselves in the foot a few times, enough to lose a game or two here and there in dramatically stupid fashion. Like, I don't know if you heard her talking about the Bengals-Patriots game from last week. I didn't get to watch a thing of it because it wasn't the local game that we had on Sunday. But it was last week. Yeah, it was last week. Sorry.
Yeah.
But it was just it was just dumb luck. It was a special teams touchdown or a defensive touchdown, which you come to expect from Bill Belichick. It was catches that just seemed improbable and unlucky and going through defenders' hands or off defenders' hands. Like Jesse Bates thought he was coming away with an interception. Turns out it was a touchdown. Like, what? Okay, cool. And it's basically what's happened with us, like the Cam Lewis not hitting the ball down on the Justin Jefferson at 4th and 18. And another big similarity, people calling for Zach Taylor's head for his play calling, even though that offense is undoubtedly one of the most, formidable offenses in the league. Same thing here. Like, I'm as critical as Ken Dorsey as literally anybody else, but he's leading an offense that's more efficient than it was last year. So How mad can I really be? It's just funny all the similarities between these two teams heading into a Week 17 matchup where that could lead
the stakes literally couldn't be higher in a matchup. Like, I don't really remember, and it might be just this might be the first real game with stakes since we have the battle for just the 1 seed. Because if you think about this, like
I just wish the Chiefs had like real opponents. Sorry to interrupt you, but I just wish the Chiefs had real opponents to where
it's really
it was
sad
realistic.
That Jarrett Stidham is playing that game next week and not.
It's very sad that a Denver Broncos team with an interim head coach in his first game is the best chance for the Chiefs.
No, that's a good thing. Interim head coaches always have a nice little bump. I'm not saying I'm excited.
I will be betting on the Broncos to win straight up. I'm not going to lie about that, but I wish that wasn't the best chance for the Chiefs to lose.
So I know this is going to be, just to go on a quick aside here, that this is going to be a very strange Sunday experience for me because I will be in the city of Pittsburgh this weekend for New Year's Eve, and I don't know what we're doing. Saturday is New Year's Eve, so anybody's guess could be where I will end up by 1 o'clock on Sunday. Could still be asleep, could be, I don't know. So I don't know how much of football I'm going to be watching that's not really on my phone for Red Zone, but I do know that I will be locked in a bar somewhere for a Steelers Sunday night football game in Baltimore, which will be an enjoyable experience there. But I bring this all up to say that that is a very, very, very important game for us looking at that Bengals matchup, because if the Ravens win and they have, then we know next week it's win the AFC North in Cincinnati, Bengals Ravens. If the Ravens lose, the Bengals, are they going to be as motivated going into that when they're going to have 2 shots at this? And actually, I mean, that's just one of the things that. Oh, you still got me.
Yep.
That's one of the things that. That's one of the things I'm really thinking about with that matchup, just because I think it's going to be really emotional. There's going to be, these teams are motivated. They're going to talk like it's any other game, blah, 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 whatever. Like, we know how much it's going to mean, especially this is such a young cores going against each other. They know the stakes of this. And I do think that will be a big motivation, potentially looking ahead, potentially whatever else. That they have another huge game next week. And the Bills, while maybe that Patriots game is huge, maybe they have to win and the Patriots are battling for a playoff spot, but the Patriots could be out of the playoff picture by Sunday afternoon, and the Bills will know that. So it's a lot of moving pieces there, but I do think that Ravens-Steelers thing, and just the fact that the Bengals are still in a division battle while the Bills, really their only eyes are on the 1 seed and everything else, I do think that gives the edge to the Bills. And just the fact that the Bills, I think that run game is really turned a corner, and I don't think that a maybe healthy Joe Mixon and P. Ryan can have the same effect. And that's crazy to say about Joe Mixon, but James Cook has figured something out the last 6 weeks. He really has. And
he's PFF's number 1 graded running back since week 6.
He is. That's crazy.
And do you know who's number 2?
Who is it?
My comp for him, Aaron Jones.
Hey. So you're
Not
just
bad.
a big PFF guy, huh?
No, I guess I'm a big PFF guy. I didn't even know it. I unfollowed him, but I guess I'm a big PFF guy.
But Cook is a weapon, and it's a different element than they've ever had with Josh Allen. Ever. Mm-hmm. They've never, as great as Singletary has been, as great at games, performances, whatever, it is just an element that they've never had. And that's why they don't have to blow teams out 31-10 or 38-3, because they can just grind you to death. And it's honestly, I know I'm a sicko like this, and it's not the same. Like, I love the high flying stuff and everything else, but I love nothing more than a 21-10 win where you run for 300 yards and just take, like what Steve Wilkes did on Sunday with the Packers.
Yeah.
with the Panthers. Give me that
Mhm.
all day. You just rip a team's soul out when you can run the ball and run it effectively, especially on first down, which is I
Love
know
it.
what the Bills really want to do is get into 2nd and 5, 4, 3, and that opens up everything. That opens up the play action, opens up the deep ball, opens up the Allen runs. And if
Mhm.
Singletary, I mean, what is Cook? He's averaging 5.8 yards a carry. It would be most in the league if he qualified with the carries or something like that right now. It's insane. And if you have that kind of effectiveness, he's just a different element they've never had. Diggs is going to get back on track. Davis is going to get back on track. I'm not worried about that. When you add this element to those guys, the Bengals haven't. No team in the league has seen that yet, especially the Bengals and the Chiefs.
Yeah, no, it's
And
definitely like
just to jump in one more thing, you have to think that Dorsey, Allen, the whole brain trust there, Brady, they've been waiting to use stuff for this offense, specifically this run offense that has been developing for this
yeah.
game. They do that all the time. We saw it with the Patriots game last year. They added that new element and everything. So I feel like it's just we're gonna get something new from the Bills, and let's hope that they can execute it because they've been their own worst enemy this year, just like the Bengals have, according to Bridget, and I think that she's right about that too.
No, and that's a great way to bring this all full circle. It's literally if there was any NFL game where it's symbolized by the Spider-Man meme, it is this one. Classic case
I think
of
that's just the Chiefs too. I think you just put 3 of them and you just have them all point. That's where we're at this year.
yeah,
Like
pretty much.
it is what it is. Where else would you rather be in the NFL, right? Like you have 3 great quarterbacks with 3 electric great teams. Only one team can move on. That's just the nature of sports. But this is going to be such a special run in the AFC. And it's really just a start. So I'm just going to go out there and enjoy Monday night. Monday is we are a Penn State football family too. So the Rose Bowl but right before Bills Bengals on Monday evening. Going to be a very long day of football watching. But what more could you ask for? Literally, what more could you ask for?
Literally nothing more and nothing less. And that's why we're going to end the show right here. We are going to be live for pregame on Monday night. So stay tuned for a time for that. My friend just texted me, Micah, a fantasy question to end the show here. He said, I'm not actually starting Hassan Haskins over Tyler Algier, am I?
Wow. Yeah, I would.
You would?
Yeah, I think so. But
that's
he's got like
tough.
10 minutes though.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Who do the Falcons play? The Falcons play.
That's what I need to look at.
Yeah, the Falcons play Arizona. Oh, I might.
Ooh, I would play Algier, I think.
Yeah, no, I would play Algier. Yeah, I'm gonna say you're right. You're not actually doing that.
I mean, he might go off tonight because he's gonna get volume, but the Cowboys defense is nasty. It's Josh Dobbs and Hassan Haskins. I wouldn't want to touch that fantasy wise.
Yeah, no. I put one bet in on this, and it was Cowboys first quarter -2.5, and to cover the spread over the whole game. Yeah, no, that's
nice.
it. No player props, no nothing. Just Cowboys. That's everything. I think that FanDuel boost of Dak to get 200 yards and the Cowboys to win is an absolute trap. So no, bet Dak's under on passing.
Scott, shout out to your friend who I'm assuming is in the fantasy finals. Shout out to everybody in their fantasy finals this week. Good luck.
Yep,
it's
including you, Jake.
Weekend for everybody. I wasn't gonna bring that
in
up.
The Trainer Fantasy Football Finals.
I wanted to be against my co-host. I was hoping we could be here. That could be this whole end of this episode. And
Colin took the condom off on me last week. What was I supposed to do?
He really went through. And Slick almost got me. Slick had a very, very close game. But yeah, it's gonna be a stressful weekend. It's gonna be stressful. I need Dak Prescott to ball out tonight because Tua is out with a concussion, which is not ideal. But hopefully some CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott action, something like that. I don't know. It's going to be a stressful weekend, though, because I'm not even watching games really Sunday. Mate, I don't even know what it is, but it's not going to be normal. And just the fantasy finals when I can't just sit in red zone. Like it was, oh, man, I'm going to be losing my mind. But it's only one finals matchup, unfortunately. I don't know. Yeah, I know you're in a couple leagues. How many are you in?
None, unfortunately. I'm in the third place game in 2.
Well, that's okay. See, you know,
and I won the guillotine. I won the guillotine league this year.
There you go.
So
there you go.
no, was not close. Big time.
I had 3 semifinals. I lost in 2 of them. So it was a tough Sunday last weekend. Yeah, one was beyond reach. Just couldn't.
Mhm.
It was like a moral victory getting to the
Oh,
semifinals.
yeah,
in
no,
one league, you know
my
what I
one
mean?
team, I had Chris Olave out, Jonathan Taylor out, Nick Chubb playing hurt, Mecole Hardman went on IR. It was a horrible. All my receivers ended up on IR, so it was
Ugh,
just. I was just happy to
that's
be there.
terrible.
Zonovan Knight and Elijah Moore were starting for me, so I was like, you know what,
Yeah,
I'll
that's
see you
not
in the third
ideal.
place game. But good luck to
All right,
everyone out
buddy.
there in your finals. Jake Micah, thanks for joining the end of the show. I'll talk
Heck
to you.
yeah.
I'll talk to you on Monday night for our Bills Bengals pregame show. But until then, for Jake Micah, Bridget Jancarz, Outlet Liquor, fans of Buffalo, Picasso's Pizza, everyone at Trainwreck Sports, good night now, and go Sabres.